Hi, I'm Felipa, and this is day 68 of 365 days of reading this Bible. Today was a hefty reading, about 7.5 pages, and so I will not go into explicit detail over each significant chapter, just an overall overview. So essentially, it says we start with chapter 15, where Absalom, the son of David, wins the affection of Israel because he ends up meeting people who have controversies and who need judgment, and he helps them out, and he says, you don't need the king for that, just let me help you. And says Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. He then instigates a conspiracy to overthrow his father, and David hears of this and he flees from Jerusalem, and he leaves his 10 concubines because he knows that Absalom is coming for him and his throne. And then we essentially have David traveling, people being against David. And so as he travels the country and is escaping from Absalom, there are people who essentially, protect and help bring food to David and his army. And then there's other ones who hate him. And then as we continue, it says here that David receives some secret intelligence to say over what is happening, and essentially of like Absalom's whereabouts and how the pursuit of David is going, and kind of like how David should take care of himself. And it says David sets out to defeat Absalom, but charges his army to be kind. So there's a whole plan where it says David numbers his people to go and defeat Absalom and his army, but he says, take care of my son. Be kind to his army and his people. Don't kill him. And unfortunately, he's riding a donkey. He gets caught by his hair in a tree, and Joab ends up seeing him and killing him with 3 darts in his hand, thrust them through the heart of Absalom. And so then David receives the news of Absalom's death, and he is very upset and he's mourning him. And interestingly, in this section here, chapter 19, it says Joab causes the king to cease his mourning. So he comes to see him and he says, like, how can you, it says in verse 6, it says, in that thou lovest thine enemies and hatest thy friends, for thou hast declared this day that thou regardest neither princes nor servants. For this day I perceived that if Absalom had lived and all we had died this day, then it had pleased thee well. So he's basically saying, like, how can you keep mourning this, mourning and grieving the death of your son, when all of these people, went to battle for you, they were all protecting you, and now you're still crying over him. But you have all these servants, your sons, your daughters, your wives, your concubines, everybody who is still here for you. And then there's the desire of Israelites to bring King David back to Jerusalem. And we pretty much go into this whole process of making sure that David comes back to Jerusalem unharmed. And that is it for this chapter and this section until tomorrow, when it says God calls David to avenge the people of Gibeon. So we will see where we end tomorrow, but like I said, quite a hefty section, lots of names and details, but essentially the big part is that David's son Absalom ended up betraying his dad, conspiring against him, and then he ended up dying, and David is still now the king of the Israelites. So thank you for listening. If you have any comments, I would appreciate them, and I will see you tomorrow. Good night.